What's up, Agency Go fam? In this video, I'm on a quest to break down all of the patterns, the macro patterns that help businesses reach over $10 million per year in revenue. I've worked with a unicorn. I've worked with multiple businesses doing over $100 million in revenue. And some of the public data that I can share, I'm gonna be sharing with you in this video. And this is gonna be part of a multiple part series where I break down the patterns on how to scale your business to over $10 million in revenue. And as always, if you want access to all the scripts that I use to scale my agency, all the lead gen scripts, the outbound sales scripts that I've used to scale my agency to over $185,000 per month in revenue, you can go to agencygo.io/leads to get that completely for free. Let's jump into the video. So here's the thing is, the one thing that they all have in common, all these massive companies that I've interviewed or I've worked with, or even my own company that honestly is relatively small, even though we're on track to do over $2 million this year. Last year we did 1.72 million. That's still considered a small agency in the grand scheme of things. The large companies, the ones doing over 10 million, 50 million, 100 million, even the ones I've worked with that are valued at over $1 billion, they all have outbound prospecting as consistent. So you can see here in this chart, right? This one is what I was able to do with my outbound closers and inbound closers. It was blended, but you can see that a lot of the deals that closed, a lot of these were from outbound prospecting. Same thing here with this breakdown of meetings booked by different BDRs I had on my team. You can see just how many meetings were booked. And this process helped me. It catapulted my agency to do $1.72 million per year revenue. Even though we had a very solid inbound process, still do have a really solid inbound process, that outbound process is just so incredibly helpful and is what all these large companies do. And I did not want to do outbound. I really wanted to stop at a certain point and just focus on other things and just have leads come to me constantly. But the thing is, all the companies that grow fast, they have a solid outbound strategy. Now, this is one I talk about a lot, abstract management. This guy, Scott Scully, he built a $54 million agency essentially through outbound sales. It was a really strong approach he's been building up over the last 20 years. And he's seen compounded 20-30% growth every single year for 20 years, which if you ask any person in the investment space is incredibly good growth. That's what puts you on par for being, a billionaire one day, is consistent 30%, 20% growth every single year, no matter what. And you can see here, this was an amazing sort of breakdown he said on one of my posts. He commented this, and I go into this in this video, but I mean, you can see like some of the posts. It says, we had 530 new business pitches for ourselves last month. 70% of them came from outbound cold calling. From this activity, we added 60 new MRR accounts. This is just the calling side of our business. And it's dead if you don't have good data. It's dead if you don't have the right processes. But if you have these two things plus good people, there's nothing that can top one-on-one interactions on the phone. And this is what's really interesting. He said he had 7 to 50 clients that he provides outbound calling services to, and he hits their quotas. But the really cool thing is that when he says 530 new business pitches and 60 new MRR accounts, keep in mind the average client he's bringing in is paying $3,750 to his agency, right? So this is, obviously, it's like $200,000 to $240,000 in new monthly recurring revenue. Imagine building or adding $3 million in yearly revenue. And I can say it's for a year because every single account he brings on stays for a year at minimum because he signs 12-month contracts with them, right? That's just crazy. He's literally building a $3 million business every single month, right? This is just insane in terms of growth, right? And you can see here, these are the reasons. These are where I think that it will never, ever, ever end and never die. And it's probably why all these companies are focusing so much on it. So first of all, outbound never dies. It's just, there's always going to be a telephone. There's always going to be an inbox. Whereas Facebook ads could always get more expensive. Something could happen with your organic rankings. Maybe you stop being as popular on social media. There's always something that's outside of your control. But you know what's inside of your control? A telephone and an email inbox. Those two things over the last 2 decades have been relatively consistent. Obviously, you have to be careful of certain things and make sure you're not spamming people and all that stuff. But for the most part, everything is pretty consistent. Now, reason number 2, it's forever cheap and fixed in cost. So here's the one thing that you have to remember. Other channels have marketplaces that essentially fluctuate depending on supply and demand. So for instance, if you're paying a lot of money to get leads from Google Ads, even though you can scale, and I'm gonna talk about this in the next video, you can scale with an amazing brand, and you should scale with an amazing brand and amazing inbound. You should do that in conjunction with this. But the thing is that those are fluctuating based on supply and demand. If there's a new advertiser that comes into the market, it could push out everything you've done before and completely ruin your business. If there's an update based on supply and demand, let's say the major provider wants to focus on different types of companies, spending different kinds of budgets, or they want to rank different kinds of keywords because other keywords are better for their business, that could completely wipe you out. Whereas the supply and demand for an outbound rep is pretty much just their hourly rate plus bonuses, right? And that is relatively consistent. If you look at it's actually kind of sad. That's why I always try to pay people well within our company. But it's actually kind of sad if you look at the hourly minimum wage for businesses, it's pretty much consistent over time. It doesn't really change too much over the last 30, 40 years. It's pretty sad. And so that goes to show that it's fixed, it's cheap. You're not gonna have to pay more usually. You're not gonna have to worry about one day all your outbound reps go up 300% in cost just because of one major law change. That just doesn't happen, right? Reason number 3 is you have virtually zero uptime or management, right? Once you've trained someone, they're on their own. You don't really have to do much. I spend about 15 minutes a day with my team just going over things. I don't do anything else. That's it. 15 minutes a day. That's all they need. They know the process. They have the scripts. I do some other stuff, like I'll provide the lists and everything, but that is so easy because I even have someone who gets me the lists. So I don't even have to do that part. So that part is also handled. So if you're spending more than 5 hours, I think that a month, right? I think that's actually a little bit overkill. The 15 minutes a day is actually pretty easy, especially once you have a process established. So that's pretty much why, because they're end to end. They don't need you. They don't need your advice. And plus, it's so repeatable that they can also learn from each other. That's the other thing. Whereas, you can't, at least from right now, you can't fully have an ads campaign learn on its own. I know there's a lot of self-learning stuff that's happening and a lot of AI machine learning, but right now, you still have to manage it effectively. You still need a really skilled person managing it. But the one good thing about it is even though it requires more management, the good thing about ads, which I will say, and I'll cover in the next video, is that you really just need one super skilled person on ads. So you do have less talent costs, but again, you still have to have that person. If that person ever leaves, it's just over. Whereas with outbound prospecting, if you lose half your BDRs, you can get another half BDRs right away. It's not like you have to go find people. They're abundant. There's always people who will want to prospect for you, always. And the fourth reason is it's just better leads, frankly. That's what my experience has been like. I don't know if it's the same with other companies. I can say from the cross-sectional analysis that I've seen, it's definitely better once you can crack it. And here's the reason why. If people are coming inbound, they're usually price shopping, right? And I will say that I guess this is a little bit of a too rudimentary of a statement, because if I really break it down, it's actually not necessarily that it's better leads. It's that you get really good leads from inbound, right? You get really good leads from outbound, but I've just found that more often than not, the leads from inbound are price shopping, and the ones from outbound are not price shopping as much. They have your full attention, right? It's kind of like trying to compete for eyeballs on YouTube, right? Which is where this video is. It's a lot more competitive than trying to just go directly and getting people on your website or through email where there's less distractions. And if you guys want to actually see all the scripts that I've used to scale my agency to over $185,000 per month in sales, you can get them for free. Just go to agencygo.io/leads, type that in. You get them for free. You get access to all of this information, all of these scripts that I use to scale my agency. And if you want to check out Abstract Management, I definitely recommend doing it. They're a really cool company. I'm not sponsored by them. I don't get a cut on commission right now. Maybe in the future I will, but right now I don't. But they just crush their outbound process. And they're one of the partners I can talk about because he's commented a lot publicly online about what he does, his process, and everything like that. So definitely give him a shout. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. This is a very, very thorough process I went through to do this kind of a cross-sectional analysis of different agencies and how they got to $10 million per year in revenue. If you would like to like, share, and subscribe to this content, feel free to do so that way you can stay in the loop for more videos just like this one that can help you scale your agency fast. And as always, if you want access to my Agency Go scripts that have helped me scale my agency to over $185,000 per month in recurring revenue, you can go to agencygo.io/leads to get them absolutely for free. Peace.